A whole lot more pressure.
I want to bring in this op-ed written by Susan Rice, published in the New York Times, saying it's not too late on North Korea. She says, quote, history shows that we can, if we must, tolerate nuclear weapons in North Korea the same way we tolerated the far greater threat of thousands of Soviet nuclear weapons during the Cold War. We can rely on traditional deterrence by making crystal clear that any use of nuclear weapons against the U.S. or its allies would result in annihilation of North Korea. This is your wheelhouse.
Yeah, and I think part of the challenge is we're faced with a lot of very bad options here. And economic sanctions, most experts agree, are not going to convince North Korea to get rid of their program because of those stats you just quoted. Kim Jong-un doesn't care if his people starve. The economic pressure doesn't seem to impact him as much. There are military options, but just this week, the head of Special Operations Command was interviewed at the Aspen Security Forum, and he said, we have military options. That's what we're paid to do. All of them are incredibly ugly. All of them would likely result in tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of deaths of South Koreans and of Americans who are stationed there and possibly in places like Guam. So I think right now we're trapped in this escalatory cycle of rhetoric. I don't know where it ends, but we need to make very clear to the North Koreans that they should not take that step that you talked about is on the table for Kim Jong-un right now, and key to that.
But speak specifically to the rhetoric, though, Maria. Right. North Korea will be met with fire and fury, says the president. North Korea responds, saying that's a load of nonsense, that threat coming from the United States.
Yeah, I think the rhetoric is interesting here for two reasons. First, President Trump has seemed to draw a version of his own red line, saying if they do escalatory things, he will take very drastic action that could have very serious consequences for human life. And if he doesn't, it will look like an empty threat. But the other problem for me is that North Korea's propaganda domestically depends on having an external enemy to hold up as the evil empire, as their enemies, basically. And President Trump, because of his language, is giving them an external enemy that they can use, which can be very dangerous. And Republicans like John McCain have said the same thing.
No offense, Marie. I'm so sick and tired of the criticism over the fire and fury comment. We have Secretary Mattis, who has confirmed 98-1 in the Senate, who's a brilliant military scholar, who is a student of history, of someone who is known for being deeply thoughtful, who essentially said the same thing yesterday, said that Kim Jong-un's actions would be met with the end of the regime, the destruction of its people, essentially saying the same thing. So where's the condemnation of that comment? And we also know that Secretary Mattis is not afraid to stand up to a commander-in-chief, because we saw him do it with President Obama and get fired as a result over Iran, not even getting a phone call, mind you. He was apparently in a meeting and was passed a note that he was no longer going to be head of Central Command. So, you know, no offense, Marie, but spare me with the rhetoric.
Okay, well, let me ask you a follow-up, Lisa. Let me ask you a follow-up. If this rhetoric that President Trump has now escalated results in missiles being fired at Guam, are you okay with that outcome?
Well, so just like turning a blind eye and the strategic patience of President Obama.
No, don't talk about Obama. Talk about where we are now and answer my question.
Because that's what led us to the current juncture where we are now.
If this rhetoric leads to North Korea attacking Guam, are you okay with that?
Kind of like the ICBMs that they've been launching our way on 4th of July.
That's
sending a message. I mean, come on.
Right.
I'll wait for an answer to my question.
I just answered your question.
Over the last 3 administrations, whether we're talking about President Clinton, who spoke nicely with the North Koreans and actually came to an agreement to give them $5 billion if they stop their nuclear program. How did that work out? President Bush also was presidential and measured with North Korea. How did that work out? Obviously, under President Obama, same thing. So rhetoric isn't going to suddenly encourage Kim Jong-un to start launching missiles. He has gone ahead with this program, regardless of how presidents have spoken. Right. And the media bias on Trump, by the way, the media bias on Trump here. He says something, and the apocalypse comes as far as the media reaction. Mattis says essentially the same thing, and I don't hear a peep from people criticizing him.
Here's the reality. The Democrats should back off on this one, because we should be a united front. And we should be making it very, very clear to North Korea. If you mess with us, the consequences are going to be devastating. He needs to know that.